Welcome to the Coach's Table podcast, where coaches come to grow personally and professionally through real-world application and online education. What is going on today? I have a very, very special guest, somebody that I enjoy dearly, and so I'm super excited to get to that. And it's going to be a great conversation because it's going to be something that I think most people haven't had before, right? At least the viewpoint of it. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. And she's awesome. She's really great. So, but guys, before we get to that, we have been growing consistently on Spotify and YouTube. We've literally doubled our following every single month for the last 4 months, which is amazing. And so that is to you guys as a thank you, but it's also a thing you have to keep sharing the show. And so if I'm going to ask one thing of you, I'm going to ask you to share the show. People are learning about it. Companies are learning about it, which is amazing. We're growing and the word is getting out there, which is awesome. So do us a huge favor and share the show. If you get educated, if you get entertained, if you laugh, if you think, hey, that's an aha moment for me, I agree with that, I'm going to implement that. Do us a huge favor, share the show. Okay, that's the only way the show grows. And I like it that way. So if you guys could please do that, that'd be awesome. So without further ado, a great friend of mine who is at IMG Academy working with baseball, Miss Meagan Vota.
Hello. How are we doing?
Good. How about you?
Good.
What's good today?
Not much. Easy day at work. Had some campers, some camp sessions, worked on a few projects of mine, and then now I'm here hanging out at home.
This episode is sponsored by TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr is the #1 performance platform for strength coaches around the world. Their software provides coaches with an elevated experience when it comes to program development, data tracking, and staying connected with athletes and clients. Coaches also have access to consultations with TeamBuildr's in-house sports scientists to help them manage and analyze data. Head to teambuildr.com and sign up with promo code TABLE to start your 30-day free trial. That's TeamBuildr, TeamBuildr.com with promo code TABLE to start your free 30-day trial. Yeah, let's go. So Meagan, for those of you that don't know Meagan and I have known each other since graduate school when we both went to Louisville together, which was awesome. And now she's down at IMG Academy and she's loving life. But she's not just a coach. She was a competitive cheerleader. And now she's a competitive powerlifter, and she's been doing that for a minute. How's the ACL?
It's better. Still trying to figure out really what it is, what the root of the problem was. Back in December, they were like ACL, meniscus. Yeah. Then I've just been rehabbing it. I competed on it back in March. So I just finally last week got back into some heavy lifting again. So I'm excited for that. Looking at, as long as it goes well, competing again in December.
In December.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
How is it? How
I love the competitiveness.
That's a huge thing. Like, how much do you think that helps you as a coach? Like, that you're still competitive, you're still having to stay disciplined and actually train. That's your sport, right? But it's like so many coaches. I was an athlete. I was this. I was. It's like, yeah, but you're not. Like, you haven't competed in anything. Besides your weight, besides you getting heavier, that's what you're competing in. Like, how much more food you can eat? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely helps me a lot with my coaching, especially coming from a competitive cheerleading background where people are like, oh, what sport did you play? And I'm like, oh, I was a competitive cheerleader. And they just like, and like look away, I'm like, well, I was a competitive cheerleader. Now I do powerlifting. And then like that sparks up a little bit more conversation, a little bit more rapport. It also keeps me, training heavy because I'll tell you, I need to keep up with them. Like when they are trap bar deadlifting some heavy weight, I need to be able to walk over there and just show them up and just rip it off the ground. Like I can't be that weak coach. Yeah. So definitely training, competing, powerlifting has like helped me with that aspect too.
How did you get into powerlifting? Like, because if you don't know Meagan, um,
No.
and I mean this in the most respectful way, like you're not a big person, right? Like you're not, right? And so it's
No, they
like,
tell me that all the time.
people would look at you and you're like, I'm a power lifter. They're like, no, you're not. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
How did
so
you get into it?
I transitioned out of cheerleading in college and did the whole bodybuilding scene up until COVID started.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just realized that that wasn't really feeding into my healthy relationship with food that I already didn't have because of cheerleading, growing in that sport. So bodybuilding just kind of like fueled that even more. Although I was doing some great things, I was really good at it, and then I got my first
Yeah.
paid job in strength and conditioning at Norton Sports Performance in Louisville. And you know Griffin Ewell, he's insane. He's a unit, absolute unit. And when I first got hired, he was like, "You're no longer doing bodybuilding. You're training with us. We're doing a meet. You can kiss bodybuilding goodbye. You are now a power lifter." And he was like, "Let's get you to 120 pounds." And I was like, "All right, let's do it." And I've been hooked ever since. We all competed together as a staff, which I loved. It was that teammate component, kind of having that team with you. We knew when we were training. It was very fun when I was back squatting like 225, and then I would go and spot Griffin, who's back spotting 750, and just like little old me side spotting it. But that was a lot of fun, and then I've stuck with it. It's always something that's made me feel strong. It's something that has made me feel like a strength coach, especially when I get that like "you're so small" comments. I'm like, yeah, I'm small, but I'm stronger than you.
You are
Like,
strong. Like you're super strong. Like some would call you like some would call you the Hulk. Like, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, I try to be.
Yeah. No, that's
So that's
amazing because
definitely why
I've
I'm in it.
known,
But
you since obviously then, right? And it's like if people don't know you and you're like, I was a competitive cheerleader, now I'm a power lifter, they're like, what? Like that's kind of
right, like what does that transition look like?
yeah. But that's awesome.
A lot of food. That's
That's
what it looks
awesome.
like.
No, I think it's so cool. I think it's truly amazing when coaches are competing in things as well. Whatever it may be. Ironmans, marathons, powerlifting, snowboarding. Like I think,
Yeah.
when we're competing, we are getting the best of ourselves, but we're also like still an athlete, if you will, right? And we're still like understanding things from that standpoint. Like if you're competing, you have to be disciplined, Like if you're not competing, you could be like, yeah, maybe I'll train today, maybe I won't. Like, but if like you're still competitive, you're like, no, I gotta train today. Actually, I got this, and you're like, I'm not leaving until I'm done. Right.
Right. Absolutely.
That's fun. So IMG, tell me about that. How's that going?
It's great. Today's actually my 1-year work anniversary. So I've been down here a year.
Congratulations.
Thanks. It was the fastest year ever. I honestly never thought I was going to like get through my master's. That was the longest 2 years of my life. And then the past year has been the quickest year of my life.
Yeah.
It's really great. I'm with 11 of our 12 baseball teams. Our 12th team is our post-grad team, and I kind of head the middle school program. So I'm with middle school, and then I assist on all the other teams. But it's really great. There's 4 baseball SNCs, and then we have 3 to 4 others that help with sessions from time to time when we need it. So it's been pretty great to just kind of focus on one sport and run with that. Definitely a change up for me, coming from like working with every athlete ever in every sport possible. So being able to focus and spend a lot of my days like in the dugouts, watching the games. I mean, for 11 teams, there was a lot of games this season.
A lot of games.
traveling. I got to travel for the first time with my middle school team for middle school nationals. And then our junior national team did a week-long trip. So I got to travel with them as well. That was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great time. Great
It's
year
good.
so
Year
far.
one was good. Year two is going to be even better.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's so great. What I'm very interested in is obviously like, how do you, you said you're a part of 11 teams. How do you manage that? Like, you're leading a team, amazing. How do you manage the other 10?
Yeah, so baseball has a really good working relationship with the coaches. And this is SNC's, all the support staff with the good relationship, like I just said. But we also have the ability with IMG to have AM and PM sport. So our middle school and our JV teams, that's 3 teams right there, as well as our post grad, but I won't reference that much because I never really worked with them. They were all AM sport. So they did all their training, all their sport in the morning, they went to school in the afternoon. Whereas the rest of our varsity teams were PM sport. So they did all the schooling in the morning, all their training in the afternoon. So that kind of gives you a structure there, knowing that some of the teams are split up at one time and the rest of them are split up at the other time. Then they're also in different lift groups based off of who they're training with out on the field. So before they break up into teams in the fall, it's more kind of like age. They're grouped with their age. They're grouped with who like their pitching coach might be, their hitting coach, and they will come in and do lifts that way. So we would have like a 130, a 345, and a 445. So it helps manage it that way. And then once we get into the season, I had 2 varsity teams and then my middle school team. And then another coach had 4 teams, and then our head guy, Will Townsley, he had the rest of the varsity. So he had our 3 national teams. And that was kind of up to us to make adjustments to the programs as we needed. And then we would run that session for the day with everyone else kind of assisting. And then because there's 3 to 4 of us, we were able to go out and spend that time on field warming up all the guys for their pre-practice movements, their game day warm-ups, things like that. So it really helps having a full team of SNCs with 220 athletes. So we're blessed to have that component. But it was definitely stressful at times.
What was the most stressful component of that? Is it the communication amongst the coaching staff to ensure like,
That's
hey,
for sure.
just so you know, I did X, Y, and Z, and so you can kind of do whatever, or I didn't do anything. I feel like that would be kind of tough too, a little bit.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I've only been here a year, so I don't really know, and I can't really speak on it. But I think in the beginning that was pretty tough for baseball with the volume of the athletes that they have. But now it seems like every coach is bought in on what we do, and they kind of look at us from time to time as that leader of like, I'll get texts from, the junior national coach, and he'll be like, how was the weight room session today? Like, are the guys juiced up for practice? Should I pull back on practice? Should it be a shorter day in the weight room? Do whatever you think is best out on the field, but this is what I might do. Or, yeah, they were juiced up. They were ready to go. They were actually telling me they were excited for practice. So it's probably going to be a better day to do, focus on some longer practices or some longer drills. But we definitely all work together, and then I have the ability to have a mental code leadership to kind of when they're down on their juice per se to text, I'll call Andy up or text her real quick and be like, hey, if you're on field with the boys today, like their moods were low. Or, hey,
Yeah.
we're finishing up lift in the next 30 minutes. Do you think you could come down and have a talk with them? So there's just constant conversation going on. We're always texting, we're always calling each other, keeping each other in the loop, which helps a lot. It's a really good working system.
Well, you alluded to this when we were talking off air, but you alluded to how amazing it is that you guys are such a well-oiled machine,
Yeah.
and kind of talk about that a little bit too, because you guys
Yeah.
have the athletes' days from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed, minute by minute, structured out, formatted. They're gonna go do this, and then they're gonna go do that, and then it's this, and then it's that. I'm gonna say very militaristically, right? Like maybe, then correct me if I'm wrong, please, but maybe they don't have the individuality, freedom ish, right? Not that they are locked down, but like their days are structured for them, right? What does that like kind of look like then?
Yeah. I mean, whether it's a sixth grader coming in or it's a senior that's here for one season because they just want to get accustomed to that college life, that structure, um, I think they all come in with the same mindset. They all come in of,
Mm,
I'm here for a goal. I'm here to get better. I'm here to suck every opportunity out of this place that I can. So a majority of them come in bought into what we have planned for them.
gotcha. Mm,
Um, it definitely is kind of crazy to think about when we know, like, I know my middle schoolers are going to wake up for their 8 a.m. lift at 7:40 and they're going to run in, like half eating a banana, like probably barely got ready for the day, ready for their lift. But, and then I know from there they're going to practices and then they have lunch and then they have this, and this. But when they live on campus too, they do kind of lose that individuality, but they're able to get
yeah.
it in other ways. So, like, IMG does a really good job at having those kids go off campus to the beach days, or the kids live for target runs. When they know it's like a Wednesday and they get a late night target run, like that is the best thing that could ever happen to them. We definitely have a well oiled machine in the sense of like,
Yeah.
I call it like strategic planning. Like we know what's happening at
Mm,
that time,
mm,
and it helps us plan our day even better. And it helps the kids realize what the goal is.
yeah.
So they know that like their mental session, whatever they learn, whatever the theme of their mental session is going to play into their leadership session, which is going to play into S&C, which then they get to go talk about with the athletic trainers when they're decompressing for the day. So just
Mm,
being able to have that structure for the athletes, honestly, I think helps them in the long run.
yeah, I think so too. I think it's teaching them productivity, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you go from a structured environment to an unstructured environment, you quickly like learn how to structure that unstructured environment. You're like, this is FUBAR, let's fix
Yeah.
it, right? Like, and people are like, wait, what? And you're like, yo, this is good, but it's great. I love it. I'm a huge fan of it, obviously. So stay on the mentor sessions, the leadership sessions and stuff. What does that kind of look like? Because you guys do some fascinating stuff from a mental performance standpoint, sports science performance standpoint. You are help cultivating these people, these men and these women into you
Yes.
know uh, successful, if you will, but people that are in leadership roles. They understand these things they understand higher level concepts at a lower age. What does that stuff look like?
Yeah. So I know that mental will do a lot of on field talks, and they also do like a lot of weight room talks with the kids. Just kind of playing into what that theme of the week is. Maybe coach said, you know, they were not really excelling in this piece of baseball, so our coaches will go back and think like what's a fun activity we can do to get these kids involved. One of the things I really love that our baseball mental coaches do is they'll stand with the kids when they're getting ready for their AB, and they'll talk them through their setup. So, like, what should you be feeling right now? What should you be thinking? What are you going to do to get yourself ready to step up to that plate and hit a bomb? So, I love seeing that side of things. And then we also have the ability to do classroom based stuff. Um, nutrition also plays into this as well. They do a lot of the education pieces inside. We focus at IMG a lot on education because we can get those athletes as ready as we want, but then when they're not an athlete anymore, like everything they learned, if they don't know how to implement that, we didn't really set them up for success. We set them up to a certain point, but if they don't have that education piece to it and know all those things, they're not set up the way that they should be. So we have either one season with them or we have 7 years with them, depending on what time they come in to accomplish that,
Yeah. I was just going to say, and like, the goal is to provide them with the education so they can make a better informed decision.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And, we see this at the college world. You've seen it too, is like, you have all the resources in the world, but you still have so many people making wrong decisions or not good decisions.
Right.
And it's like, well, what's lacking, right? And is it the resource or is it them understanding why they are making the decision or what would cause them to make a different decision, right? And I think you're spot on with the education component of it, right? Like, I can tell you, eat more protein, don't eat fast food. But if you don't understand the why and you still love McDonald's, you're probably going to pick McDonald's. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, it sucks. It's just the way it is. So I love the on the field and the classroom education component of things because I think that really like helps reinforce it, and the environments are different too.
Yeah, absolutely. It helps them see that those things that we learn in the classroom can apply to outside life. So
bingo. Yeah, that's huge. Okay. What is your biggest takeaway for the first year at IMG?
Biggest takeaway would have to kind of play into that, but there's still those external and there's internal factors that play into it. We could have everything set up for them, and we think that there's no time left in their day to do anything. And then we see them at the Crunch Fitness, hitting buys and tries because they don't think that they did enough in the weight room that day. Or a lot of these kids are away from home, away from family. They're homesick. There has been a number of times where I've had kids come in because they're losing sleep over the fact that, something happened back home and they're not there to be with their family. So they're homesick. We have a lot of Japanese, a lot of Korean athletes that they don't see their family at all until they go home for summer break. So those internal, those external factors, and almost understanding that their day-to-day is so much bigger than that small piece that we see. That's probably my biggest takeaway is, there's that cliche of like, coach the person, not the athlete. And it's like, and it really is that. You need to know what's going on, and you need to have that rapport with those athletes so that they feel comfortable in letting you know of those internal and external factors that are affecting more than what you see in their day-to-day. Even on the weekends, like we don't see them on the weekends. So there's so much that can go on in those 48 hours, and you're expecting them to come in Monday morning ready to go. And that's just not the case, So just getting to know the athlete on a higher level is definitely the biggest thing that I've learned the past year.
I would, for sure, and this question is probably going to lead right into that more, but when athletes do come in and they are homesick because they are in 6th grade, 7th grade, or across the world, how do you guys kind of handle that? How do you handle that? Like it's tough because like you and I didn't grow up like that, right? Like,
no.
I think you probably still have people pumping your gas, like,
it's not how I grew up.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, how do you guys kind of handle that? Because it's got to be different because it's not something that you're like, oh yeah, I did that too. Like,
right. You can't really relate to these athletes, especially when they don't really speak English well and they can't really get their point across. I think it comes a little bit easier for me because I am more emotional than most strength coaches. So I can understand easier, even if I can't relate. So for me, it's if they do come in and they tell me something that's going on, I usually, will pull them aside. I'll say, if this is a conversation we need to have right now, or do you want to see me after the lift? Like, can you give me something during this lift and we'll talk about what you're doing or what you need in private with the athletic trainer or something, like 2 other people in that room with them to kind of let them get it all out? Or is it something that you need to just go back to your dorm and deal with for an extra hour before you have to start your sport, where they might not really care as much about what's going on? Or, before you go to class, like your teacher is going to care, but you still are there to get your schoolwork done. Like, we can put your workout to the side for now. You can come in later and get it in. So I usually have that conversation with them of like, how much is this affecting you right now? Can you give me anything? And then if that is something like, no, I don't want to be here, that's fine. Go take care of what you need to. Usually we'll have a conversation with like the mental coach, she'll check in with them. Athletic trainers do a really good job. They're kind of like the therapist sometimes of like everything comes out in the athletic training room. I know sometimes I'll sit down there and I'm like, I just feel like I had a therapy session. Or I'll sit down with like our mental coach, Andy, and she'll be like, okay, so how are you doing today? And I just let it all out. I'm like, oh my gosh. So just,
I feel great.
Yeah, letting those athletes know that like we're here for them. Like, sometimes they do look at us as like that brother or that sister figure because they don't have their family with them. Because at the end of the day, it's, you're lifting weights. It's important, but it's not that important if it's affecting your mental life or your mental health and your outside life. So navigating that conversation of like, what can I do to make your life better right now in this moment?
Yeah. Do you notice over time, I want to make this assumption. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But do you notice as they get older, as the year goes on, they get more or less homesick? And I
Right.
ask that because when I first left home, when I was 17, after I graduated high school, and I was in basic training for the military, I remember I remember very distinctly calling my dad, bawling my eyes out, and being like, I don't want to be here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it was like my first time like away, and I'm like, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. And he was just kind of like, put your big boy pants on and like go to work. Right.
Yeah.
That was mine. But I couldn't imagine doing that at 12, 13 years old and being like,
Right.
I don't know when I'm going to see you, or I can talk to you, I can call you, but you're not here. You know what I'm saying? Like, so do you notice more or less of that as the year goes on and as they stay in the system longer?
Honestly, I think for the young guns, like, it's unpredictable. Sometimes they'll come back from winter break and they'll feel refreshed because they got to see their family. Sometimes they come back and they're like, I was just with my family and now I'm not. So now I'm upset. So it really kind of changes on their personality and who they are. I think for the older guys, the juniors, the seniors, like, they're ready to get out of there anyway. So yes, it affects them, but I don't think it affects them as much as our middle schoolers.
Sure. I could see that. I could see that a lot because especially when it's like you were just with them, you got comfortable, and now
Right.
you're
Yeah.
not. Like that's.
Yeah. And I know that's how I am too. Like, I just went home for a week in May, and when I left, I was like, oh gosh, like, I should never leave. Like, I'm more homesick now that I got back here than I was before I came to visit Jersey.
Yeah, and Jersey's great. Saying on that, Megan, and I've told you this, but I envy that you do such an amazing job
Right.
with your work life, personal life. I'm not even going to call it balance. I'm just going to say like your personal life. Like, you do such an amazing job of it. Like, I'm not going to lie. And I'm very envious of it because I feel like at times I can't put things down, right? And how do you kind of balance that, if you will, or ensure that like you are getting your personal life in, and it's what you want to do?
Yeah. Uh, I struggled with this for a while, going through the master's program,
Mm-hmm.
doing my classes during the day. In between classes, sometimes I was even going to the private sector just to coach a group or two, to come back to class, to then go to my internship. I didn't really do a good job at that. And I knew that if I kept that up, there was going to be burnout very quickly. And I wasn't going to want to be in this field. But this is what I'm meant to do. Like, I am meant to be a strength and conditioning coach. I love it. It is my passion. I honestly don't think I could ever get tired of it, as long as I was doing it in moderation, per se. So it took a lot of like, your mental health is down here because you want your career to be up here. Like, let's find what makes you happy outside of here and what you can do outside of work to balance that out. A big piece of it was moving back to the beach. I loved Louisville, Kentucky. You know, I loved going down on the Ohio River. Like, I was a river rat, but that was only because I was missing that beach component. Like, so now I'm down here. Like, once we get off this call, I already told you, my hard stop is I can't miss the sunset. Like, I've got to get my 4 miles in at sunset on the beach. That's my thing. So I think finding what makes me happy outside of there, or outside of work, because life's not just about work. Yes, it's a huge component for us as strength and conditioning coaches, but it's not your everything. And trying to figure out what I loved and what made me happy and what made me content, and almost like a simple life outside of work, because work is crazy. So what could I do simply that made me happy? And I definitely found that coming down here. Plus, like I was saying before, it helps that we only work 5 days a week. And if we're done with a session, like, there is someone else in my office yelling at me to leave. If they know I'm done with a session at 2 and I'm still there at 4, they will look at me crazy and yell at me and tell me to get out. Like, go enjoy your life. Work is not everything. You took care of what you need to. You did a great job at it. Now go. Bye-bye. So it helps having coworkers holding you accountable too.
I think there needs to be more of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we get so we have all these feelings of shame and guilt, and if I'm not working my 27 hours today out of the 24 I get, and people are gonna think I'm not committed and all this bullshit. Like, fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? But like, and I will say I'm guilty to it to a point, right?
Absolutely.
And like I said, you do an amazing job of it. You really do. And I'm like, damn, I wish I had a life like Meagan. Like, for real though. But no, for real, like, you do a really good job of that. And so I love the aspect of like, hey, if you're done at whatever time and you did today at a high level, leave. Go home. Don't come back. Don't think about work. Don't text me. Don't call me. Like, go home. Enjoy life. Go play with your dog. Go sit by the pool. Like, go do whatever it is you want to do. Don't feel bad for flying out for a weekend. You know, like, go do whatever you want, you know?
Right. And the same way that we hold each other accountable if we start slacking, we hold each other accountable if we're doing too much. So there's a good balance there. Like, I've had many conversations with coworkers. Like I told you earlier, there's 22 full-timers and 8 summer staff. So there's 30 SNCs in this office right now. And I've had my fair share of times where, you know, someone will come to me and be like, hey, like, you're kind of off your game. What's going on? And then I've also had my fair share of people saying, you've been here for too long. Leave. So I think holding accountability on both sides is definitely key.
That's massive. And preferably the latter, right? Like,
yeah, right. I'd rather that
side. Yeah. So, okay. So one thing that I think you guys have a unique opportunity with at IMG compared to the collegiate sector right now, and even the high school sector, in all honesty, is the LTAT approach,
Right.
because the transfer portal is the hottest commodity, right now, and student athletes are not staying at locations, for a plethora of reasons. Um, and it's very difficult to, implement a long-term athletic development approach when you might only have a guy or a girl for a year. You might only have them for however long, right? And so, what does that look like for you guys? Because if you have them as sixth graders and they're leaving at 12th grade or graduating, like, you have several years of development with them. How does your guys' approach with that kind of change, in comparison to collegiate sector or high schools? There's high schoolers that transfer different schools.
Yeah. I think it really helps to know and have the relationship with the parent to know kind of what their goal is there. Some sixth graders will come in sixth, seventh grade just because they need just a little bit more boost on the nutrition side, on the weight room side to get them where they need to be. But majority of the time we have them all the way until 12th grade. Then there are the kids that will come in because they're just doing 1 year to get comfortable. And it starts the same. The first month is all basics. It helps that they know that the goal at the end is to get them where they need to be. And they definitely do trust the strength coaches more than, I would say, other schools or other middle schools, high schools, where their parents have just kind of like been the person that takes them through the workout at the gym and lets them bench and lets them back squat when they shouldn't be. Where these kids have the idea of these strength coaches know what's best for you, these coaches know what's best for you, whatever the case may be. There is a lot of like pushback on why am I doing a 5-second eccentric goblet squat with 20 pounds for 3 weeks? There is a lot of kickback on that, but then you just reassure them, like, we're doing all of this now. That way at the end of the year, we can do all the fun stuff. We can train like the varsity guys, train like the national guys. So that helps them kind of see that end point of even just middle school to JV. JV's typically one step ahead of the middle schoolers and they lift at the same time. So I'll always say like, hey, they're doing this movement and you guys get that next cycle as long as we do this great. So being able to develop them and have them get that education piece and the understanding of everything we do from the ground up is for a reason. I'm not making you do this lightweight, boring exercise because I'm trying to punish you. This is the benefit of it. This is what it will progress to as long as you guys put in the work. But everyone starts the same, and then we'll make adjustments as we need. Obviously, our varsity guys are going to progress a lot faster. Middle school, they take their sweet time, but we get some pretty good lifts in there. I mean, it's chaotic when the middle schoolers are in there. They're little meatheads. I love it.
I can only imagine, and there's not a better person to deal with them because of like who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm serious.
My personality matches theirs very well. Everyone makes fun of me for it. I'll just start gritting in the middle of a lift, and it's like it's nothing.
Yeah,
they don't even bat an eye.
I couldn't do that. I'll be there. That. I couldn't do that. That's like, you're the perfect person for it. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's so funny because I'm sure you give them as hard of a time as they give you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's absolute chaos. There's so many of my colleagues that just like, I'll get done with a session and I walk upstairs to the office and they're just laughing hysterical because of the way that we looked on the weight room floor of like blasting Korean pop music. And we're all just like flossing in between sets, but like getting what we need to done. And it's a good time.
Yeah.
It lets my inner child out a little bit. So
a little bit.
I love it.
A lot of it. Can you turn that thing off? Or
yeah.
When
I need to.
That's awesome. I think that's really, it's just so interesting, right? To have the ability to really develop them for 6 years, right? And to have the ability to be like,
Yeah.
I know you don't want to do this, and I get it, because maybe I don't want to do it either, but here's what we're going to do, right? Like, because you're like, I want us to progress from these tempo goblet squats also. So like, can we hurry up?
Oh gosh. And there was like right in the beginning of the year, me and Jack, who ran the JV program, the kids were just like not getting the culture component of the
Okay.
weight room. And baseball has a really good culture at IMG. So we were like, what do we have to do to get these kids to understand this? Because there was a lot of pushback in the beginning. And we were like, all right, we're going to go 5-second eccentrics on everything. And it's all going to be on the whistle. So like we're sitting there just like every rep down, up, blowing the whistle. Like it was terrible for us. So I'm sure it's 10 times worse for the kids. But because they hated it so much, they knew like the better I do right now,
Yeah.
the quicker we can stop doing this. So it definitely was a lot of building from the ground up in the beginning, but they got it pretty quickly, and that was very impressive on their end.
Well, and that's important. I think there's so much value in the hatred of something, right? Like,
Right.
as crazy as that sounds, and what I mean by that is like,
Yeah.
I hate doing tempo goblet squats on a whistle with somebody counting, but I know if I do it the right way, I can progress.
Keep on doing it.
And it's going to suck if I don't do it the right way, because we're just going to keep doing it. So I'm going to be in this position even longer.
Yeah. And they knew me and Jack were not giving in. We were not giving in to them.
That's
so
huge. You're like, not happening at all.
No.
Look at you. You're so funny. Okay, so year one's done, going on to year two. What is one or a couple of things that you are excited about going into year two?
Yeah, I've got some projects that I'm working on right now. We are transitioning our head baseball guy, Will Townsley. He's now our head of department. So we're transitioning into filling that void with hiring, and I'm just working on some like back end projects, more of on a strategic planning side. We already do have that well-oiled machine, but it's a lot of communication and it's not written down in one place. So working on some projects to kind of get that mesh together that I'm excited about. I'm also just kind of excited to get back into the baseball realm for a second year. I've learned so much about baseball that I now want to like not finally implement, but just like implement more. Learning all the terms, learning how to hit, learning how to pitch. It's been really fun to do that. So bringing more of what I learned with those skills into the weight room is something I'm really excited about. That's kind of what I was focusing on towards the end of the season, when those little details were important. So now I can bring them in even earlier in the year, because I know a little bit more about that. On base U, I learned a lot about on base U. So implementing that a little bit more. And then really just, I like camp, but I love the full timers being there a lot more. So I'm just looking forward to having the kids back and being able to see what more I could develop out of these athletes.
Sure. That's huge. What, from a baseball perspective, what would you say would be your biggest takeaway from this past year that you are excited to implement from your standpoint?
A lot of the kind of like hip separation, being able to do a lot of like pelvis work, in the standpoint of like hitting and pitching, the mechanics of that, understanding what they look like on the field and seeing how we can recreate that in the weight room. It gets a lot of buy-in from the guys because it's something they're familiar with already. And then it helps me become a better coach because now I'm understanding what they say when they're like, my layback needs to get better, or, my angle when I throw, or I need to close my hip when I hit. So like understanding their terms and implementing that in a way that they understand. A big thing that I learned at the end of the season that I wish I knew in the beginning when we were working more on speed was that base stealing position and the mechanics that they teach in baseball for stealing. Because I've found that it's a little bit different than what we teach in speed. So being able to connect those two and the coach's lingo to the weight room lingo or the speed lingo, learning a little bit more of like those smaller mechanics, how they run, how they steal, how they slide, and just implementing that, like I said, into the weight room a little bit more.
Yeah. Do you think, or how do you think that has changed some of your programming, if we're talking particularly in speed? What adjustments have you made from the education you've gained, right? Specifically, within baseball, but within the sport and stuff.
Yeah, I found out very quickly that they hate doing like a 2-point stance, which is like
interesting.
Really all I've done up until that point, with working with a wide range of sports. It was always just kind of like, okay, let's get in our 2-point stance, or let's do a falling start, different techniques into our acceleration. If I ask them to do just a linear start, it's not happening.
Really?
They're always going base stealing. And I think that comes from what they learn out on the field. Anytime they sprint, it's from base stealing. And then also with that, they love doing leadoffs, which I used to hate because I'm like, start on the line, don't get off that line, don't beat my whistle. But then I quickly realized by going out to practices, like leadoffs are important. Like they need to take those few little steps to go into their sprint. So not yelling at them as much for those small little things that their coaches are yelling at them to do, right? So it's like I'm hearing it in speed, I'm hearing in the weight room, like, don't do this, but then now my baseball coach is saying, you need to be doing this. So having a more cohesive understanding of why they do those things.
That's very intriguing because I'm going to use the example of the false step, right?
Absolutely.
I think every strength coach is like, yes, it's a great thing, right? Like we're getting that shit and go closer to the ground and we're projecting our horizontal velocity, blah, 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 whatever, right? But then you go and you talk to a sport coach and they'll be like, cut that out completely. And our scientific minds are like, no, coach, like that is amazing. Like it's probably the best thing for them, blah, 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 whatever. And so like, that's a very small example, but it happens all the time. If you're a strength coach, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but
yeah, absolutely.
But it's things like that you're kind of saying though, too, where you're like, what is our common language, right? Like, are we telling them the same things or are we confusing them?
Right. And they're learning this, they're doing an hour speed session, and then they're going to practice right after, and everything they just learned in speed is saying, no, don't do that. Or they're being told, don't do that, and just being out at practice is the only reason why I learned that and why I quickly changed that. So going out to practice really helped me a lot.
How important do you think it is for strength coaches to be out at practices?
For me, super important because I never played baseball. So it was like, I understand the sport. I've done my needs analysis. I know what you need. I know what you're like, I could not hit a ball. Like I literally found a video of me last night, like trying to swing a bat at Louisville Slugger Hitting Science Center right before I went to IMG, and I swung the bat and my ankles crossed and I like almost fell to the ground. So like for me, it's important to go out to practice. I remember there was one time the coaches started dying laughing because I was like, what dugout are we? Left or right dugout? And they were like, don't ever say that again. I was like, all right, I'm sorry. Like, that's something, like I understand baseball. I can watch it. I know the rules, but like, I didn't know the terminology. So like me saying left and right dugout, I looked so dumb. So it's important for me to go out to practice and to spend as much time as I can because I need to learn the sport on a deeper level. I think if you grew up playing the sport, it's less important. It's still important to show your face so that the athletes and the coaches know that you care. But to be out there like I was, I don't think it's really necessary unless you've never played the sport.
Sure. But it's also being inquisitive while you're out there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, as much as it is, it's not just out there catching some rays either, right? Like with the shades on, like kind of playing coach, but kind of not. And you know what I'm saying? It's also like, like, hey coach, like, why are we doing this? Like, oh, I had a question on, you know what I'm saying? Like it's paying attention while you're
absolutely. Yeah. There's been times where I've been like, why'd you make that call? I've asked coaches, like, can you explain that call? Can you explain bear down to me? Can you explain this? There's been times where they're like, you're going to do the scoreboard and you're going to learn everything that's happening. You're going to learn what a hit is. Yes. You're going to know this. So I've sat down at games in the beginning of the season and just like did the scoreboard and then asked my questions. I've asked athletes, like when you were, at to bat, what happened there? Like, can you explain to me like what happened or what went wrong, what went well, just so I can like understand what's going through their mind. And I think it's super important for me on that end to be engaged and to at least ask a few questions when I'm out there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. That's huge. I think I'm at practice every day. I run the scoreboard too.
Yeah.
Like, coach, I put the time on. I got you. You know what I'm saying? Like for real.
Yeah.
And then I go and shoot and stuff too. But I just think it's so important. I really do. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
But Meagan, the floor is yours. Anything you want to end on?
I don't know. I feel like we covered a lot. Like we wanted to cover, that work-life balance, kind of what IMG, does great. Why it's different from other places. And I think we covered a lot of information. I don't know. Great time. Great talk. We've talked so much even on it's insane that it's like,
yeah, man.
I don't know. We did, like went through the master's program. Like I just never felt like we were going to make it out. And then like, here we are, like young professionals and really implementing everything that we've worked so hard for. And it's a really neat feeling.
Yeah. It's really cool to see the people that, we were in graduate school with doing very well. Yourself, Stacy, Tommy, Carson, Priya, and to see them doing well and exceeding and, enjoying life and having good careers. We're also young in it, but and it's cool because, you can call and talk to each other and be like, hey, so I'm kind of having this problem, right? Or, hey, what do you think of this, right? And we can either laugh at each other with each other or, get upset too, right? The experience was awesome. I mean, I know Stacy and I dipped after a year, but the experience was the first year was rough though,
But we did a great job of doing our weekly hangout and we did Easter and we always we're making bets. Whoever doesn't put this face mask together fastest has to take a shot later.
I just had
it was rad.
How the Derby just happened?
What a day.
I had stuff come up on my phone from when we were there and we were at it's so true. When we were also watching the Super Bowl, I had that come up on my phone too. And it was we all
all his
no, it was so cool.
Yeah, I mean we definitely made the best out of it.
We had a good group. For real.
I know. We gotta get all together one day.
Yeah, we gotta come to Florida. We party.
Please.
Yes.
Come hang.
We would love to.
Just
We'll call them. Meagan, where can they find you at? What was the best place to reach you?
Instagram, Twitter. I don't have a coaching Instagram. It's just my personal one, Meagan Vota. My coaching Twitter is Meagan Vota CSCS. I haven't thought of anything better yet, so it's just there. And then my email, meaganvota@gmail, or my work email, which would be meagan.vota@img.com. Reach out if you have any questions, you just want to talk shop.
Yeah.
I'm open to anything. I'm open to just meeting new people, meeting other coaches. I do a lot with kind of that girls experience. I mean, I'm on Instagram and I'm always talking about just being a woman in sport. That's one of my big passions. And not only just being a woman in sport to be a woman in sport, it's being a woman in sport to open up opportunities for others. So anything I can do for anyone really, but specifically young females in the field, anything I can do to make your life better, to open up an opportunity for you, to help you learn about something, please feel free to reach out.
And seriously, reach out to her because she will help you and will give you the time of day. And because that's who she is and she's an awesome person. So for real, if they have a question, reach out to her because she will help, and I think that's something that you again do a great job of rather than just talking about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I try to, because I know what it feels like when you reach out to someone and they're just here's a link to all the podcasts I've done. I'm all right, well, that doesn't really help me. I'm going to listen to your podcast or I'll read the article that you made, but reaching out to, actually have a conversation. So.
Yeah. And that's huge. And hop on a FaceTime or whatever the case may be. Right.
Absolutely.
But please don't annoy her. Cause I think there's that fine line. I think people struggle with the fine line of hey coach, I have a question. And then they write 15 paragraphs and you're like, all right, well,
yeah,
cool. Or hey coach, I know you're really busy, and then proceed to write 15 paragraphs. And you're like, well, you just said that, I'm busy, but okay. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a happy medium.
Guys, look, hey, if you got anything from this episode, if you laughed with us, at us, please do us a huge favor, share the show. If you got something from Meagan, because I think she does a fantastic job, do us a huge favor, share the show. That's all that we ask. We're growing very, very rapidly on Spotify, YouTube, and every other audio platform, which is amazing. So do us a huge favor if you would, please share the show. Send this to somebody that you think could benefit from it, because there's definitely things in this episode that you can benefit from, whether it's an applicable thing, whether it's a theoretical thing, or whether it's laughing with us and at us too. So Meagan, I want to say thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you and everything that you're doing, and just want to acknowledge you for who you are. So appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was nice to talk.
Oh yeah, I hope you can still go see the sunset tonight. But
yeah, that's what I'm doing as soon as I sign off of here.
Okay, well, I won't keep you, but I just want to say thank you. Thank you again.
Bye.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.